I have read everything about you. I've watched you because we grew up here in the same place, San Diego. But this is John Assaraf.
Hey, everyone.
Amazing, amazing entrepreneur with successes and failures. We were talking about my bankruptcy, and I just loved your reaction because I always tell people it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And we both have been through some struggles. But currently, you're working on what I think is something extraordinary, something I'm so interested in because I believe in the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. 3 different things. And I'm dying to get your perspective on your brain-a-thon, on your new book, Inner Size. Where should we start?
What a great question. I think maybe we start with failure is normal, and it's part of every athlete, musician, entrepreneur's journey. And you better get used to that relationship because there's no escaping it. And so, one of the first things that I learned at a thankfully enough, a young age through my mentors was failure is just feedback, and separate you as a human being from what you've tried that fails. So don't connect if you fail at things that there's something wrong with you. Right. So I was fortunate that, I've failed and I've always failed forward. And I said, what's the lesson? What did I learn? And it just made me better. So I've had, a lot of great opportunities for learning.
Yeah, I love there's no setbacks, there's only setups, and I love your attitude. It's interesting because you were in the movie The Secret. That's where I was first exposed to you, a guy in Del Mar, and manifested the home of his dreams. And I love that, mass appeal. But you said something interesting because I believe accountability has 2 questions that is directly related to this failure philosophy. It's 1, what did I do to attract this into my life, and what am I supposed to learn from it? And that has always kind of reduced the ego side of dealing with the fact that I was wrong. Because what failure means is you were wrong about something and now you want to be right, so you have to learn. What do you feel about the attraction side of accountability, that you've attracted this to yourself, and what am I supposed to learn? Is that something you believe in as well?
Sure. So something you talked about just a little bit earlier, and is the conscious, subconscious, unconscious. And I have a different philosophy around this thing called attraction. So attraction at the quantum level of energy, when you take a negative, it doesn't attract a positive, right? Or when you take if you take a negative, you put it next to a negative, it actually attracts. When you take a negative and a positive, it actually repels, right? So think about what happens when you take a magnet. Yeah. Right? It actually repels. But more importantly, whenever you're looking to grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, there's going to be lessons involved. And if you don't learn the lesson, you're going to repeat it. That's number 1. But more importantly, when you're doing things on planet Earth in the physical realm, you have to do the right things in the right order at the right time, and nature doesn't care about whether you make mistakes or not. You are going to pay the consequences of those mistakes. And so when we make errors in our judgment, or we make errors in our timing, or we make errors in our tactics, we pay the consequences. And that's just part of the game. And I personally believe that we're playing in a precision model game. And so there's nothing that's out of order in the universe. So if nothing's out of order, my job is to be in resonance with the order that already exists. And that is, for me, resonance or, chaos. So I don't look at it as attraction. I don't think that we attract, stuff to us the way most people think about it. So if you sit at the piano and you hit the A440 key, chances are that the chandelier that's in resonance with that is going to start vibrating, even though there's no strings between the two. So through the medium of air, anything that's in resonance is in this attractive state or in this coherence state. By the same token, if you hit the A330 key, you're not going to hit that chandelier frequency. And the same is true with the tuning fork, right? So if you have a tuning fork and you hit a certain key, the tuning fork will start to vibrate. That's resonance. A lot of people think, well, that's attraction. No, it's not attraction. It doesn't work that way from all the research that I have mustered. So my job, and we get into some of the brain stuff, is if you think about a radio. If you turn on a radio and you want to hear or if you want to hear classical music, you might go to 95.5, and it tunes into a frequency that's already here. It's not attracting it, it's
Right.
already here. If you don't like classical music, you go to 103.3 and you have punk rock. It's already here. So, how do we use that as a corollary relationship to if my brain is the world's most sophisticated electromagnetic switching station, is it possible that I can tune into frequencies of what's already here? And the answer is yes. That's resonance. And so we can tune in on a spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical level. And when you create that coherence, then all of a sudden you start to be in the awareness of everything that's already here that you weren't in coherence with before. And people say, well, I must be attracting it. No, it was already here.
Right. It's allowance. And I tell people all the time when you say you're in your own way, it's really your brain isn't allowing things to happen.
Correct.
And so you wrote a book, Inner Size.
Yeah.
And I believe, I've heard you talk about it. It's coming out. I'm excited. I'm going to get to read it over the holiday weekend. But in the book, these inner sizes are about training your brain
Correct.
to set the frequency to allow things to happen. Because, just like people, they try to make it happen, I believe the laws of attraction have that same attribute. You're still trying to make things happen by the laws of attraction. Instead of just allow, I believe everything already exists. There's more than enough of everything for everyone. It's my job to get out of my own way.
Correct.
And allow it to happen.
And to
it.
tweak your access, which is a great word. So how did you learn how to eat? Did somebody just give you food and a fork and a spoon and say, hey baby, eat? You'd be hungry and you'd be starved. And so you learn by watching, by listening, by participating, okay, through a repetitious pattern of learning that then became an automatic pattern that you don't have to think about today. You learned how to eat that way, how to walk that way, how to run that way, how to read that way, how to write that way, how to speak that way. And it came about because there was bite-sized chunks that were put together through spaced repetition until a conscious, hard effort became an unconscious, habitual pattern that you don't have to think about. So when we talk about the brain, and we talk about how did you learn your beliefs, you learned your beliefs from your mother, your father, your sisters, your brothers, your friends, your school, your teachers, television, the books, your experiences, formulated these neural patterns over time that became part of your automatic self, or something known as the default mode network that runs all of your day-to-day programming and behaviors. So when we talk about the brain and we have limiting beliefs, fears, self-esteem issues, self-doubts, lack of confidence, lack of certainty, fear of disappointing ourselves, those are all patterns that are automatic in the brain that if you want to get rid of those, you actually cannot get rid of them because the pattern's already in your brain. But what you can do is use the exact same process that created the pattern to create a new, more empowering one that then becomes the default network. It's not necessarily over it, but it's adjacent to it. Okay. So our brain works by connecting associations, right? So we have a massive amount of associations. And so in every area of our life about how much we're worth, what our self-esteem is, what our leadership skills are, what our sexual abilities are, or anything, we've developed these patterns. And so what happens is most adults don't know how to recognize the patterns that are disempowering them. They don't know how to create new empowering patterns and habits that will empower them in a methodical, organized way.
It's interesting because I come from the sports background, and everybody talks about the body, right? Nutrition, the body. And all I kept thinking, and maybe I had my own projected insecurity and belief system of, because I wasn't a Hall of Fame quarterback like my business partner, that I would have sounded silly saying, how come we don't spend as much time on the brain?
Well, I think
because it is like a muscle, right? You got to work it out, right?
It's not that it's like a muscle. Your brain has neuro muscles.
Okay.
Right. So if you think about, if we want to build our bicep muscle or our chest or our shoulders or our legs, we go to the gym, we do exercises, or we go and hike or run or bike or walk or do whatever it is. Well, what do you do to strengthen your confidence muscle? What do you do to strengthen your self-esteem muscle? What do you do to strengthen your tenacity or resolve muscle? What do you do to strengthen any of your core neuro muscles like awareness? How do you strengthen your awareness? How do you strengthen your ability to focus and stay laser disciplined on an achievement of a goal? These are all neuro muscles that you can strengthen. So any actor in the world can switch from being happy or sad or mad or disappointed or any modality of physiology that you want them to take on. They can command it on command, right? And so if somebody's unhappy, could you teach yourself to be happy in less than 3 seconds? And the answer is yes, if you chose to.
So control of emotions.
Control of emotions. Yeah. And so when we focus on the core emotions people have of happiness, sadness, shame, disgust, contempt, love, we can learn how to switch between those on any given moment. But most people, what happens, they get caught up in this emotion, energy and motion that's negative or disempowering, and then they think about how they feel, and they feel what they're thinking about, and they keep perpetuating the same pattern, and that's not where it ends. And this is where the problem lays, is if you do that on a regular basis, your brain says, since you're repeating this, let me just make this a habit, and I'll just create that on command for you, so you're in that state more frequently. And then they don't know how to interrupt that pattern and create a new empowered state. So that's some of the work that we've done and understand what's going on in there.
You're an extraordinary business life coach and entrepreneur. This is for entrepreneurs. And so,
it's for entrepreneurs.
As the last question, I want to know, with everything that you know and have experienced, what best piece of advice would you give to someone if they say, look, I want your golden nugget, John, what would that be for me and everyone else?
There's just so many. I think the golden nugget specifically for entrepreneurs is something that I was taught 37 years ago by my mentor, who was a very successful entrepreneur. And he said, take 1 hour a day to level up your skills. He said, when you do 1 hour a day to level up your skills, whether it's your mental skills, emotional skills, strategic skills, whatever it is, but 1 hour a day after 365 days is 9 40-hour weeks that you will be ahead of anybody who isn't doing that. So 1 year, it's 9 40-hour weeks, 9 of them, that's 2.5 months. Do that for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you will become an expert and you will make millions of dollars, you'll be happy, you'll be, not because of the millions of dollars, you'll be able to live the lifestyle of your dreams because of who you've become by upgrading your knowledge and skills and abilities by just 1 hour a day.